I heard somebody go like, "Ooh," and I was like, look behind me, and oh shoot, there's those landmines, and I almost stepped on one right off the bat.
Hello there. Welcome to another episode of Gear Talk, and we continue with some heavy hitters. Today we have Nick, aka Blue Jean Operator, on the bench.
Hey guys.
Good to have you. We just shot the Finnish Brutality 23. How are you feeling?
Pretty sore. Spent this morning kind of doing some stretching, some rehab stuff, and it was a blast. I always have a great time coming out here, and I really like the way you guys set up your stages, the balance it has between the physicality and kind of like the realism kind of aspect too, because there's a lot of competitions out there, you know, in the United States that try to do that, and there's also brutality matches out there. But man, you guys really put on a show here. We're shooting out of trucks that are moving, crawling under barbed wire. We're not just doing CrossFit and like trying to shoot a bullseye target. We're actually having a good time and actually doing kind of realistic challenges that would be indicative of like a tactical situation you might find yourself in. So I think that's kind of cool.
Did any of the stages really jump out for you?
Yeah, so obviously, again, the vehicle one, even since last year, it's always a big hit for me. I love riding in the back of a vehicle. It's like that, masculine urge to shoot at things while you're in a vehicle while it's moving. And maybe it's because of, action movies growing up. That's always fun. The crawling under the barbed wire one was also kind of interesting too, kind of like low crawling, and that's very realistic to something you might need to do. There's a ton of them. I enjoyed pretty much all of them. It was great.
Yeah, shooting from a moving car is surprisingly hard.
Yeah, and I was so tied up on that, and then when I got to the rest of the stage, at the beginning I forgot that there were landmines that you guys set up with those, which I actually thought was really cool with the clay pigeons.
Yes.
And I heard somebody go like, "Ooh," and I was like, look behind me, and oh shoot, there's those landmines, and I almost stepped on one right off the bat.
Yeah.
Made it through the entire stage without stepping on a landmine, but I came very close.
Yeah. Ian took that hit, and I think it was a cool setup with the mines. Like surprisingly many kind of step on those.
Yeah, I saw the cracked. Even in the beginning of the day, some of the cracked clay pigeons on the ground. I was like, I was a lucky soul that day.
Yeah. So you were running our lowest plate carrier in a match, and kind of you worked out the setup with here at office. So how was it? What was your idea to put it together? And
So I like the setup a lot. I do like slick plate carriers, and I do like yours quite a bit due to the Pals webbing that's on it. So, standard kind of low vis plate carriers usually don't have any way to attach normal pouches on them without, getting into placards and stuff. But with your guys' stuff, you can kind of treat it like a normal plate carrier, especially, how you can attach a pack on the back like you see here. This is what I was running. This is the same setup I was running throughout the event. And overall, it was really nice. Very, other than, the pack itself wasn't that big of a deal. But I was trying to keep myself, while wearing armor, kind of streamlined, but also having some type of sustainment on me. The hydration, the ability to carry hydration on me, that's a big thing for me, is like being able to carry water on me. When you're wearing kit, because you're going to be sweating a lot. People kind of forget that a lot of times. It's like, oh, I'm just going to have, water in the truck or in the cooler next to me at the range. But if you actually had to use this gear in real life, you can't just go without water. You can't just go without food, because you're not just going to get magically plopped onto the objective. You have to get there. So I think a lot of people kind of forget that. And I did like, being able to just drink water throughout the day. So having this pack on the back, which, was the pack for the most part was good until I had to put on that rucksack. And I think you ran into the same deal.
Yeah.
When you had the rucksack, and you never want to do that. And it was just kind of a time constraint thing. If I had the time, I probably would have taken this off if I could, and put the rucksack over that because you can wear these plate carriers with rucks, no problem. It's obviously more comfortable to just wear a chest rig, but it can be done with just a slick back. But that was just one issue I had was putting that giant. What I don't know how many pounds that thing was.
I don't know about pounds, but 40 kilos.
Yeah, 40. So. Oh, that was a heavy ruck. I'll tell you
that.
But overall, the carrier worked out very well. I was running an AK. It was your AK that I borrowed from you, which ran great. But I was running the AK in these pouches right here, which I adjusted accordingly for those mags. And one thing I adjusted, I took more caution this year because I used pretty much the same, I think, mag pouches from last year, but in a chest rig setup, is having these things appropriately tightened, which is easy to do via these bungee cords on the bottom. That way it would actually retain those AK mags because when you're low crawling, you want those mags to retain. Yeah. And if you have an open top mag pouch like this, you want to make sure it's tight enough where the mag's not going to fall out. Yeah. Last year, one of the pouches I had, I did not take the time to appropriately tighten, and I lost the mag crawling underneath the Sisu. So, oh, and the knife. I think this was actually really cool. One of your guys hit me up or showed me this, because I was trying to figure out where to place the knife on my kit, and that's still something I'm kind of like. This is what I was testing out this, and it actually worked out really well. But yeah, you have to kind of get it out of there. Cool. Yeah, so I was always trying to figure out okay, I'm not a huge knife guy. I do like knives and I appreciate them, and I do want to put them on my kit. And I was always trying to figure out where's the best place to carry a knife. Like when I was in Ranger Bat, I had a knife kind of similar to this one. And I had it just kind of on the back of my battle belt, like in the small of the back here, which worked okay, kept it out of the way, but it also kind of made it a pain in the ass to put it back in. And I accidentally lost my my knife on objective, and my buddy's like, I found this badass knife. It was I was like, that's mine, dude. It's because I didn't properly put it back in after I used it for something. But I was trying to say, oh, this is really cool because it puts it on the inside of opposite side of usually that's how I run a radio, but on the other side, having it tucked in right there was actually really cool. Yeah. I think next time I'd probably drop it a little bit lower so it doesn't get into my armpit here. Yeah. But if it's right here, sitting on the inside of your cummerbund there, that worked out really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a new versatile kind of the wing attachment, what you can use actually either horizontally or vertically. Yeah. And also kind of if you have the knife on the other side, you still have room for example, some small item, maybe a pouch for the bangs or whatever.
Yeah, you can put anything else other than a knife. This is not just for a knife. Yeah. But yeah, it worked out good. I like that a lot. I like that. I think I'm going to steal that for something. So
in a match, you try to have the loadout fairly slim, but have enough sustainment and the stuff worked. You have used a lot of kit in your previous career in the military, but also in your current work doing the videos and pushing the envelope with all the cool stuff. What are your kind of main considerations when you are kind of start building the new kit or thinking that, okay, I might change something? What is the thought process?
So a big thing I had to grasp, especially when I started doing gear reviews and just kind of considerations now as a civilian and separating my time in the Army, because when I was in the Army, my plate carrier setup is not necessarily what I would use as a prepared citizen of the United States. And I think it's fairly similar to how a prepared citizen here would wear their kit, because when you're when I was in the military, we were doing direct action raids. We were flying in on a helicopter, walking maybe 9K, and then exfilling out on the helicopter the same day. We weren't out in the field for weeks and weeks and weeks, and a lot of times in the military, what I would consider to be good kit now as a civilian would be kind of like what I would wear at Ranger School when we're have a rucksack on our back and we're actually kind of doing evasion and doing more traditional patrolling techniques. Because I know as a civilian, I'm probably not going to be in a Black Hawk helicopter, again. and filling in on objective. Who knows? Maybe one day. Maybe that'd be kind of cool. So like I kind of had to change my kit setup. And then one big thing that I kind of like to do and I'm a huge fan of is combining, because I was looking at it as like a patrolling aspect. It's like if shit, things were to go down, I would probably go out in the woods and want to be away as much as possible from like heavy action.
Yeah.
And using what I have to advantage is like knowing the terrain. So I like to kind of look at it. It's like, how can I carry all of my sustainment stuff to keep me alive out in the woods with a rucksack on my back, without having to, go back to the base that same night. So usually I like to pair chest rigs with carriers like this. Yeah. So I'm a huge fan. I like this chest rig that Aaron was using, this Velocity Systems chest rig you guys have. Because on this thing you can carry water. I saw Aaron doing it, like carrying his Nalgene bottle in here. I like to have water on my kit some way. That way if I'm away from my backpack that has my hydration source in it, I can always have like a water bottle on me, or a canteen. So what I like to do and what I've been kind of testing out is having a slick plate carrier. This thing kind of just bare bones, nothing on it, just so it has the armor. So if I did need to wear armor, I could. And wearing the chest rig for like my ruck marches, like if anybody's done it, wearing a plate carrier with a ruck really sucks. And even if the weight, if the weight of the plate carrier is in the ruck, how it's loaded and it's not on your shoulders with a plate between you, wears you down quite a bit. So what I like to do is like infill in with a chest rig just like this, have this in the rucksack, and just layering this on top of this. Yeah. And if I needed to, and it's actually quite comfortable when you have it set up correctly. Yeah. Or you can do the whole thing where you clip this thing off and put it in. But what I've kind of found is like actually using the harness on this thing and resting over the plate carrier, actually kind of, especially if you have like a serious built up like battle rack with a ton of magazines on it. And I'm also a huge fan of carrying a lot of ammo on it too. Because like, what wins gunfights is usually who has the most ammo. So, if this thing is kind of heavy, I'm actually utilizing the harness that's on it. And this is actually well set up for it because it's an H harness. And H harnesses are great for that. Just kind of layering it on top of it and throwing it over the slick carrier and good to go. Yeah. That's what I'm a huge fan of, and kind of combining two different systems into one. Yeah. Or you can do the whole like placard setup. Yeah. That works out fine, but I'm more of a fan just like keeping this attached and just throwing it over the stick.
Yeah. That's a good concept, and I think like there's a solid application for the kind of the slick plate carriers. Mm-hmm. There are plenty of good ones on the market, to use as like kind of the base of the protection and still having the kind of fighting load.
Yeah, you can also make a direct action setup too, like the one you had up. You had the bolt cutters on the backs. Yeah. If you were in that type of situation in a unit that you could do that, it made sense. You didn't have to carry a rucksack, and you can also take this off and run it whichever way. They're very versatile in that way. Yeah. I like how streamlined and kind of small they are.
Yeah, and kind of especially if you have a thinner special thread plates, you could almost have it under the jacket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like there's a much less, if it's completely stripped down and if it's of a certain color, like Ranger Green works out pretty good. Black is actually a really good color. If you're trying to be as low vis as possible, because black is like, people wear black t-shirts and if you're in that. But, slick plate carriers are just, I think that's why they're so popular, especially amongst like civilian crowds, is just because of they generally fit the need. They're not going to carry as much weight as great as like an ABS would, but if you have this on top of it that's carrying all that weight, it doesn't really matter that much to me. And, I just like them in general. Yeah. And especially yours, because it has the palace webbing on it. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, it gives you more options.
Yeah, it gives kind of a room to kind of extend or keep it as slim as possible. Yeah. Yeah. Great points. Any kind of advice for the prepared civilian or Finnish reservist from your side, either related to kit training, shooting, or being a better person?
Well, you need to find a group, which I think is kind of cool. Here in Finland, is a lot of you guys have that base level of training just because you guys have the conscription but the United States is different because like we don't have that, and how up to speed all of your friends are, because you know if it's better to have friends with you in a very bad situation like that. So find a group, train that group. If you have more experience than other members in your group, make sure that they're brought up to that level. Especially if you're in the military in the past, it's what I like to do is kind of share that knowledge, because if you don't share it, how they're going to learn it, and that's like you just die with that knowledge. You want to pass it on. You know, that's my biggest advice is if you have the knowledge, share it, and you know, find a tribe, you know, of guys that are all like-minded, are all the same mission, and you know, just have a good group of guys with you.
Yeah. Okay. Remember to train, set up your kit properly, and share knowledge. Until next time.
See you guys.